do is say kind of what our position is and kind of further expound on some of the documents and confusion that have gone on through this process, because I think it's important to see where we got from June of this year when we signed the voluntary compliance agreement with CMHA to where we are on December 1st. But first, let me say this. We are still hopeful that we can get the County Commission to sign a cooperation agreement or approve a cooperation agreement to sign with CMHA before the end of this month. That is our hope. So we are going to continue to meet with them, as well as the Housing Authority, because it's part of the compliance agreement. So we're hopeful. I'm not saying I'm optimistic. I'm saying I'm hopeful that we will get this done, and all the things, all the bad things that could happen won't. So that's the first thing I want to say. First, let me talk about the voluntary compliance agreement. HUD, as Elizabeth said, HUD conducted an investigation of the housing authority based on some initial complaints from tenants in the voucher program. We further expanded that based on the secretary. We did what we call a secretary-initiated complaint based on things we were hearing from the community. So we did a full-blown investigation that lasted, I would say, 15 to 18 months, concluding with the signing of a voluntary compliance agreement with CMHA. The only two parties to that agreement, this is very important, two parties that are HUD and the Housing Authority. We found them in violation, as Elizabeth said, of the Fair Housing Act. So instead of taking them to federal court, having the Department of Justice come up with a remedy, what we do is try to say, okay, what can we do to remedy this situation? That's what the compliance agreement is all about. And there is about 10 actions that the Housing Authority has to take, one of which is, and we put this in June because they were very close to completing the cooperation agreement, that we gave them 4 months. On June 14th, we gave them 4 months, no, 5 months, it's 5 months till November 14th to enter into a cooperation agreement with Hamilton County. So there was no gun to anyone's head. There was 5 months from June 14th to get this done. And it was supposedly, when we signed this, it was close to being done at that time. Kelly was just saying that they were negotiating for your ad. So I think that's important. That was what was in there. The other piece was, I kind of want to explain this. In previous cooperation agreements, we signed between CMHA and Hamilton County. There was an agreement to do public housing throughout Hamilton County. There was actually an allocation plan. And in that allocation plan, certain communities had certain units. In Green Township at that time had 68 total units that they could get. I believe 27 have been built, but in 2006, when the board chair at the time issued the edict to not build public housing in Green Township, CMHA still had money in 2006. They developed, at that time, 118 units of public housing in the county. 0 in Green Township. So, Green Township agreed at the time to accept those units. All we're saying is that they didn't do it. To remedy that situation, they should accept what they already wanted to accept. So, it's not like we're saying we're forcing it on Green Township. We're saying, look, you agreed to accept it in 2006. The board said no. CMHA, you need to do it. And by the way, Green Township, you already said you would accept them at the time. So Green Township is not a party to this. We're not saying Green Township was fault. It was the CMHA board. There was a fault, and that's who we're holding accountable. The second thing is, during this whole process, the county, in its participation with HUD and the Community Development Block Grant Program, has to qualify the surrounding communities. So the townships and municipalities in the county outside of the city of Cincinnati have to sign on to the county's CDBG program. And at that time, the municipalities like Madeira, Blue Ash, Cheviot, that are actually municipalities, have to sign on. They have to send in agreements that yes, we want to participate. townships are automatically included unless they opt out of that process. Now, I just want to, the only thing that does is means you won't get CDBG funds. It doesn't mean you're not part of a cooperation agreement. It doesn't mean anything else. It just means that you decide you're not going to get CDBG funds and your residents do not participate in any services, countywide services that are funded by CDBG funds. Those include things like people working cooperatively's senior home repair program and water and sewer hookups. So now all those the townships that had opted out of that, thinking that they were exempting themselves from getting public housing, which nothing to do with it, are now denying their residents the services of CDBG funds. And also decreasing the county's block grant funds that it gets from HUD, because it's done based on the population of those that participate. I just wanted to bring that up because that is part of this whole thing. Now lastly, there's a document called the Consolidated Plan, which is what the county submits to HUD to get its CDBG home and emergency home, which is the Home Investment Partnership Housing Block Grant and Emergency Shelter Grant monies. In that they certify to HUD that they will not just further fair housing, but affirmatively further fair housing. The county certifies that to us. And what would happen if we don't get this agreement with the county commissioners is that we will probably, I would assume we will, I can't tip my hands much, but we would probably initiate an investigation of the county, probably a very brief one, because we know that they either sign it or they don't. And if we find that that violates the Fair Housing Act, we would issue a finding which puts that certification in jeopardy, meaning that we don't believe it, and B, we're not giving any block grant funds. So that would be the consequence if we can't get an agreement. They will not get their about 2.4 million in CDBG and about 1.3 in home. It's a lot of money that goes to a lot of good in Hamilton County for low and moderate income residents. The county commissioners have received letters of support saying you need to sign this because we want our block grant funds. From some people that have been critical of HUD programs, like the Section 8 program, Springfield Township being one particular that I know, has said, well, we don't agree with everything HUD does, not everyone does, but we want our block grant fund. So the commissioners are flying in the face of what their constituents are saying to them. So I think it's important. We want, like I said, we want to get an agreement. HUD, we are both a funder, but we're also an enforcer. We enforce the Fair Housing Act, and we take that responsibility very, very seriously, especially under this administration. But the county should know, we are not, if we do not do this, and this is the case I've made up our chain, that any county commission or any unit of government would refuse to sign a cooperation agreement just to keep public housing out. And if we allow it to happen here, we're in deep trouble. So I don't think we're going to